Our first speaker today is Congressman Jerry McNerney from California, just to the east of San Francisco. The congressman was first sworn in 2007. He's a member of the Committee on Energy and Commerce, as well as the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. Before his congressional career, he had a very excellent career before politics, including working at Sandia National Laboratories in New Mexico. And he also formed a startup firm that made wind turbines feeding the electric grid. So obviously a perfect opening speaker. And sir, we're looking forward to your remarks.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hey, thanks. It's great to be here. This is an area that's always had a lot of passion for. I spent a career developing wind energy technology. Loved it. It was a lot of fun. And then I got called to Congress. So here I am. But I just want to thank the Lexington Institute for having me this afternoon. What I'd like to talk about is the evolving electric grid system. It wasn't too long ago that the grid system was a one-way system. The utility company put up the transmission lines, put up the power plants, sold the power, the customers took the power, and that was pretty much the story. And not only that, but it was a cost-plus system, so utilities were free to invest as much as they wanted. They would get paid back for that. Of course, that changed in about the 1990s or so to a system that's much more complicated. We have all kinds of opportunity. We have renewable energy. We have customer feedback. We have all the smart meters are out there. There's a lot of interplay between the utility and the customer. There's demand load management. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, but those opportunities also bring threats. One of the big threats, of course, is cyber. We have an opportunity where bad players, which we didn't used to think about too much, could get data. They can disrupt systems. They can get into the economics, and they can raise a whole lot of havoc. But there's all kinds of other threats too. There's instabilities. There's physical threats, and there's a whole host of environmental threats, starting with climate change and superstorms, threats, droughts. In California, we saw huge firestorms, maybe caused by utilities, maybe not, hard to tell at this point. Utilities apparently were following standards in their codes in terms of the utility lines, and yet fires were started because of the extreme conditions. So we have a lot of threats, but these threats actually bring additional opportunities in terms of innovation, in terms of creating jobs that bring a lot of value to the system and evolve the system to something more responsive and more resilient. So we see a sort of a cycle of opportunity, a threat, and opportunity and threat. So I think it's an interesting time to be in this business because so much is happening, so much is dynamic. We have technology coming in. When I was first in the windmills, we had the power transformers that were able to create waveforms, and now we see that's pretty widespread, which gives utilities a real opportunity to react to real-time grid situations, and I think that's a tremendous opportunity. So we want to look at what the government leadership is. That's what I'm here for. Really, there's legislation. For example, I've written 2 pieces of legislation I think are important in the cyber part of the business. One is the Cybersecurity Act, which actually sets up government on a voluntary basis laboratories that can test the cyber resilience of components that go into your system. I know that it's not just about the components; it's about the ecosystem. But you got to have good, solid components, and with good modeling, you can create an ecosystem that's secure. We also have the enhancing grid security through public-private partnerships. Another sort of voluntary system that sort of gives the utilities the help they need to make the investments to move forward with these cyber threats and these challenges and opportunities that we see. So in order to help along that, I formed the Bipartisan Grid Innovation Caucus with my good friend Bob Lana. And what we do is we have forums, we have exchanges, we have expositions on a regular basis so that we can get the message across to other members of Congress and other members of the public that are interested and out there, and what opportunities we have, what challenges we have, and how we can get people in Congress more interested and more involved in these questions. So if you're interested in the Good Innovation Caucus, please call my office or my staff members and we'll help you out. Another role of government here is to ensure that we have reliable sources of fuel. If you live in New England, you know what I'm talking about, but we also have to decide if nuclear power is going to be economic, if it's going to be reliable, if it's going to produce the sort of power and reliability and resilience that we need. We need to make sure that natural gas is available all across the line. Is coal viable still? I mean, these are kind of questions that we need to understand and we need to act on. We need to think ahead, which is hard here in Washington, but nonetheless we need to start doing that, and we need to have your help to make sure that we are able to do those things. In terms of private industry's responsibility is going to be to invest in these technologies, to invest in innovation. You want to make sure you buy the parts and the components. You want to make sure you invest in transmission and distribution systems. So there's a whole lot of responsibility that private industry has. And also data security. I just met with the CEO of Florida Power and Light yesterday, and I was asking him how effective is the data sharing in terms of cyber security, in terms of providing industry the tools they need to make sure that they can secure their systems. And basically his answers was, theoretically it's a good thing. It's a good thing. We need to have information sharing. But the limitation he was talking about is that the utility companies don't have the security clearances they need among their employees to have access to the data that would be useful. And so that was a really useful piece of feedback that I got yesterday. We're going to start working on that. How can we make a system where data can be shared to utilities in a secure and safe way that gives them the information they need to secure their systems and allows them to share information without worry about proprietary data, without worry about Freedom of Information Act exposure. So those are things that I think we can continue to learn on, and that illustrates how we need to work together. You need to give me the information I need so that I can create legislation and help regulations move along in a way that is useful to you in that. So again, the final goals are that we have a reliable electric grid, that it is resilient, that it can withstand punishing attacks either from nature or from human sources, and we need to make sure that our electrical system is affordable, because if it's not affordable, we have all this infrastructure and our industry is not going to be able to move forward and help our economy grow the way we need to grow to be competitive in a very competitive environment out there outside of our borders. So those are my remarks. I thank you for listening and giving me a chance to speak up, and again ask you if you have feedback. We are open to working together to move this very difficult issue forward. Thank you very much.